This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. For your time. This is the second time, of course, we're doing this with you at Caracal Gold. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you to Claire, aka City Girl, for organising this and helping very much with collating all the questions that we've got this evening. Quite a lot, Robbie, over 30, I think. So yeah, quite a number of questions there. A few things to cover off. So we'll get started immediately. I do not want this to take more than an hour if we can help it, so we can, just for time constraints really. But I obviously, of course, today, Caracal released some news. It's on the mine plan expansion at Kilimapesa, and this is set in 4 phases. And I do want to focus on the questions that people have sent in, because that is why we are here. But Robbie, did you want to just say a few words on the RNS that's come out today before we get into some of the questions from investors?
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Mark. It's nice to talk to you again. It's always good to catch up. I think we work well together. So thank you, and thanks for everyone who organised this. Yeah, I mean, the mine plan. It's not just announcing the mine plan. It's announcing the mine plan, which is now the next step along this route of the financing the Kilimapesa expansion funding. So this is the key building block in that whole process. Obviously, the process, we'll a lot of the questions deal with that, so we'll go into a lot more detail on that. So not just announcing the mine plan, which is what we've been waiting for, but it's how it feeds into the expansion funding, how it kicks off the next stage of the expansion funding. And we can start talking about real time frames again now, because we've delivered this mining plan. So yeah, we were very pleased to get that announcement out and have the work done.
Excellent. Well, let's get stuck into the questions. I think the first few that we have here are relating to the RNS this morning, and I would encourage anyone who has any questions to either type them or you indeed put your hand up, and we will try to come to you. This is what this evening is all about. So the first question, Robbie, is what stage are we at with funding, and how many different investors are included in the financing, and are Filoro still committed to funding?
So if we just take one step back from that, Mark. Obviously, we went down a more than 10-month road last year. We kicked off the discussions with the previous group, OSIM, in March 2022. We went through the whole process with them. We announced their funding on the 29th of November 2022. So, I mean, it was a long, detailed process, and myself and all the shareholders and management and everything, we went down that road. Obviously, we all know what happened in the beginning of January, and OSIM pulled out of funding, and I think that's the last I'd like to say on that. So we then started from zero again, basically. We started from a little bit below zero, because we started talking to other funders and other people who had been interested, and other people who we had stopped talking to because we had gone exclusive with OSIM, etc. And we had to then explain and spend quite a lot of time explaining to them why OSIM hadn't worked. So you're almost starting negative, and you've got to build yourself back up to equilibrium, and then you have to get the people on board and move forward with them. So February, March, we signed a deal, and we went exclusive with a funding company, not a prepaid gold one this time. It's a royalty that we're negotiating. There's only one funder doing the royalty. The term sheet that we've got signed with them is for $7.5 million contribution towards the Kilimapesa expansion funding. And yes, we are continuing to talk to other funders, Filoro included. And very much like the previous deal, once we've secured the anchor tenant or the primary funder, which in this case is this royalty deal, then the other funders will come on board if there's a shortfall of the funding. When we were doing the OSIM deal, we had to raise $15.5 million, of which OSIM were doing 10.5 and Filoro were doing 3. we've continued to work on the expansion project. That capital cost number has come down in the RNS today. We're talking about 10.5 million, and based on the revised mining plan and how everything is coming together and the work that we've continued to do, that number will reduce further from 10.5 million before we put out the final capital number and the final number that we're going to finance. So that's the history. That's where we've come to. There's one funder. It's a royalty deal. It's for 7.5 million. They're going to be the anchor of the expansion funding that we're doing. Yes, we might get some funding in to come alongside them, but that funding that comes in alongside will only come in once this anchor funding is done. So I think that answers the question. I can move on to the timing and where we've gone through in the process that we've been going through from March, or is that a separate question, Mark?
No, please, you can go through that. There are other questions here, but if you'd like to go through some of the timing, yeah, please go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so we kicked off with this group February, March. We very quickly moved into the technical due diligence process, as well as some of the legal due diligence and financial due diligence process, and that process went very well. It was moving together nicely. Under the term sheet, we had targeted an initial completion date around it was June, July, and we very quickly as well moved into the legal documentation phase. I think in some of the previous interviews I spoke about us bringing on lawyers up, earlier on in the process than we had done in the OSIM process, so that we didn't potentially make the same mistakes that we'd made under the OSIM deal. And we progressed really, really fast and well. And lawyers were appointed, and we actually had the first round of transaction documents on the table, which are the same transaction documents which are still on the table at the moment. But there were some recommendations that came in from MinOpEx, the group who we announced the review of the mining plan today. They also act as the funders, technical consultants, and independent technical advisors. And they came back and said, there's some additional work which we need to look at on our geological model, which will feed into a mine plan, and potentially we need to produce a new mine plan. And between ourselves and the funder, we made the decision that let's do the work, because it's a further optimization. It might add value to the project. So we commissioned that work, and we commissioned that work, I believe it was around May. Unfortunately, we had some hiccups on the plan, availability of engineers, getting people to site. Guys are busy, and the program to get the mining plan finished took a little bit longer than what we had thought. And yeah, we announced the completion of that phase one of that work this morning, as we said. So it's all feeding in the right direction. It's going in the direction that we need to go. It's work that we have to have completed. It's work that we didn't envisage when we locked in and we started talking to this financier. But it's further optimized the project. And yeah, it's that work has now been completed.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you for that, Robbie. Another question I have here, it's regarding of course the quarterly updates. And do you have any idea when we can expect to see the third quarter update?
Yes. The third quarter update will come out before the end of the month, so it's due in the next couple of days.
In the next couple of days. Okay, nice and soon. Okay. And are you still mining high grade material on the hill?
Yes. We're still mining on the hill.
Okay.
And the new mine plan is. And we'll publish some more information on the new mine plan. Everyone, all the shareholders, all the stakeholders will see the areas that we're mining, the same areas that we highlighted, and those areas have been expanded and very much in line with the internal mine plan that we produced previously. So yes, very much, we're still mining on the Killy Hill area. Okay.
And do you have, well, first of all, what stage is pad 4 at, and do you have pad 1, 2, and 3 in operation at the moment?
Yeah, so pad 1, 2, and 3 still in operation. Those are the pilot. We always spoke about a pilot plant heap leach project. Pads 1, 2, and 3 make up the pilot plant heap leach. They are different to pad 4 in that they're removable pads. So we are able to load them. We do the heap leach process on those pads, and once all the gold is leached out, we're able to remove the material and then reload more material onto the pad. So they're reloadable pads. So yes, pad 1, 2, and 3 very much in operation. Pad 4 is the construction process on pad 4. We cleared all of the ground. We started doing all of the earthworks. We've just come through the rainy season, where we are in the Maras when the migration happens as well. That is now we're out of the rainy season, and we're going to put the foot down on the construction and the completion of pad 4 now again. Pad 4 is a much bigger pad. Pad 4 is actually the first pad that should have been constructed under the expansion if we had drawn the money down previously. So we're pushing ahead with pad 4 out of our out of other funding, not the expansion funding that we're looking to secure. And it's a much bigger pad, so it's got higher tonnages, higher capacity, and it's also a permanent pad. So it's not a pad where we take product on and off. It's once it's loaded, once it's leached, we rehabilitate it, let the grass grow over it again. And so everyone will see pad 4 will be constructed. One of the things that the guys want to do, and it might be something we're looking at bringing on, we need to bring on PR services again now that we start to ramp up, and the news flow is going to increase, and we're thinking about putting up a time delay camera at pad 4.
Nice.
So you can watch the construction of the pad, maybe on a time, watch the pad being loaded, watch all the activity. So it might be something that's a bit interesting. So yes, pad 4 construction will kick off properly again now. Much bigger pad, permanent pad, and pad 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 will follow.
Okay, well, that's very good to hear that you're planning to ramp up and might be entering a bit of a news-rich period. I'm sure we'll get a bit more detail on that in a few days, as you say, on the Q3 update there. But I do want to move on to some of the other questions here, because there are quite a few. And I think the next one ties into something that was announced from the company recently, which is, of course, the potential suspension there, which I believe is related to the delay in the publication of the annual reports. And this question is why, first of all, is the annual report delayed? How long do you expect it to be delayed? And given the review undertaken by the new chair to improve corporate governance and regulatory compliance, how was this delay allowed to happen?
It's not ideal. I agree. I don't like the fact that it's delayed. I don't like the fact that we're going to go into suspension. I'm an investor in companies like Caracal, my hobby, and it's not good when a company goes in. This is just purely a delay on getting the accounts done. There's nothing more than that. We're a small team. I mean, the board has been scaled back from where we were previously to just myself, Stefan, and Simon at the moment. We don't have a CFO. I'm not making excuses, but we're not cash rich. We haven't had the ability to bring on a lot of staff, or not a lot of staff, to bring on staff to assist us with the process. We're running a mine. I mean, it's whether you run a small mine or a big mine, you've got all the same disciplines. You've got health, safety, geology, mining, processing, reporting obligations, community obligations. So the team has been really stretched. The team has been really stretched, keeping the mine up and running, keeping everything going at the mine. We've got a prospectus running, and I know one of the questions down the line is the completion of the prospectus and the supposed delays in the completion of the prospectus. I mean, and we'll deal with that. We're managing this funding and this financing. We're managing some JV negotiations in Tanzania for the investment and the development of Tanzania. So there's been a lot on the go, and a small slip on the work on the audit in Kenya, the knock-on effects, etc. So yes, it's something we could have managed better. We don't work 5 days a week. We work 7 days a week to try and deliver on all of these things. And yes, the timing has slipped. I can't give. I don't want to give a commitment now. It's something that we need to talk to the auditors on, and we will come out and say how long we think the delay will be. It's not going to be long, we acknowledge we could have done better. I don't think we need to bring in and say it's a slippage of governance, because in fact, I think the announcement there's been some queries as to why we announced it a few days in advance of when it was actually going to happen. And possibly previously we would have waited until and announced it only right at the end on the 1st of November. We were in discussions with the FCA on the prospectus on Tuesday, and we flagged it to the FCA and said, guys, what do we do? This is what's going to happen. Is it going to impact on producing the prospectus, etc.? They clarified that it won't, but they said, guys, you have to announce this. You know the information. It's price sensitive. You have to announce it. So I was of the opinion that it's unusual. I haven't seen companies pre-announce they're going to be suspended, but the FCA told Simon that we need to announce it, and we announced it. So it's in line with Simon's improved governance of the company that it was announced. Yes, it's unfortunate, but we've got very good auditors who work for us in the UK and in Kenya. The audit will be done, and we'll come out of suspension. We won't stop doing the work that we're doing in the background during suspension, and with all the work that we'll get done and all the momentum that we've got going on and coming up at the moment. It'll be okay. It's a function of a small team, lots and lots of work on the go. We are talking to a couple of, we've got a CFO candidate very much in mind to join the company, and to assist. So unfortunate, but it's the FCA were in the loop. No governance problems have been breached. It's just a case of getting the audit complete, getting the prospectus complete, the JV negotiations, managing the fundraising, running the mine, etc. is just maybe a little bit too much on our plates, and something has slipped. Yes.
Okay. Am I right in understanding that Caracal suspended before? Or have I got that wrong?
We were. I mean, I've got to. I don't want to knock the people who worked for us previously. We had an audit that we were suspended for 3 days last year.
Right.
And Paul was our CFO at the time, and Paul worked round the clock, did a massive job on the previous finance director did nothing, left behind a trail of destruction second to none, and Paul did a massive cleanup job, consolidated 18 months worth of accounts, consolidated Tanzania, Kenya, and the UK audit, and he got the audit done on time. There was a query last year on the last day of the audit by the auditor in the UK, PKF in the UK, and they queried some take-on balances from the company that we bought the asset from, which are also listed in the UK, and they queried some take-on balances from them. So last year's audit, managed by Paul Reeves, was done impeccably. He had a massive job to do, and he got it done on time. And right at the last minute, there were some take-on balances that were queried, not from me, not even from the work that he had done, from the previous owner's work, which put us into a short suspension. So, no, Paul did a great job, and last year's audit was done on time. This year's audit is much simpler, much less work, but just a smaller team, and a lot on our plates.
Okay. Well, yes, it certainly sounds like there's a lot on your plate. You've got a full operation going, haven't you? Really, it's not like you've just got a couple of drill rigs doing some drilling. You've actually got a mine there and employees as well. There's lots to take care of there, and it will take time, I think, to build that team up to get all those processes nice and streamlined, given as well, of course, the tough times at the moment in the market in general. But as far as you're concerned, just to finish off on this, it's an admin thing. It's not anything to be concerned about whatsoever. You don't want to put any timelines on it, but it's really just an admin thing that will resolve itself in a fairly short order.
Yeah, and I will. We will talk. We will talk to the auditors, and we will come out and let people know how long. Let people know how long the suspension will be. It's we need to come out and do that. I've picked up here, Mark, on my notes. I didn't finish talking about the timeline on the funding. So, the new mining plan is done. We've announced it. The steps from here, that new mining plan feeds into updating the financial model, which we're busy with at the moment, and the funder is working with us on that. So that's a couple of days away. As soon as the financial model has been updated, we then round table with the funder, and we kick off again on the legals. We've already got the first draft of the legals out. We had that out previously. So our lawyers get involved again. The funders' lawyers get involved again. And we've got an advisor running on the transaction for us. And very quickly we kick off with the lawyers and we start moving again. We have to then get to legal closure. So we get the agreements finalized. We sign the agreements in which we can then announce the deal, and we announce that the deal is closed. We then have to complete the conditions precedent, and then we draw down the funds. We were on a call earlier today, and the timing has been explained to me. Early next week, we'll work through the timing with the funder, but that funding will close during the first quarter of 2024. Now, that's when it will be done. So we're going to try and do it as early in that quarter as possible, but it will close in the first quarter of 2024. And the process is just simply plugging the numbers, well, not simply plugging the numbers into the financial model, getting the financial model agreed between ourselves and the funder, getting the lawyers to commence on the paperwork again. And we've got the first draft out. The commentary's got to go backwards and forwards. We've got to sign that agreement, announce, complete the conditions precedent, and then draw down the funds. So that's the process from here.
Great. Thank you, Robbie, for all that detail. So let's move on to some of the other questions here that have come in. This is a fairly long one, but someone's here has noted from the RNS on Friday where £92,750 was raised via a subscription. You have also loaned the company £40,000. Can we ask what the purpose of this is at this stage? It's concerning that we are raising small amounts which appear from the outside to be reminiscent of the situation of trying to keep the lights on leading up to the loan.
So I think they're talking about leading when we were. So I mean, let's just jump back as well and flesh it out. Is if we go back to March of 2022, March of 2022, we had done the RTO, we had done the initial work on the pilot plant heap leach, we had costed the pilot plant heap leach, and we were going to come out and. We had an AGM. I think it was on the 18th of March 2022. The previous financial management of the company had said to us, we're going to have the prospectus completed by the end of the month. So we had the AGM on the 18th. We were going to get a prospectus done by the end of the month. But that was going to be done on the back of unaudited consolidated financials, according to them. I got a call from some advisors in the UK who said to me, Robbie, you can't put out a prospectus with unaudited consolidated financials. There's a loophole in the law that you could possibly do that if you had been an operating company making profit for a period of, I don't know, 5 years or 10 years or whatever it was. But no, as a company that's just done an RTO that doesn't have an operating profit on the books, you haven't been listed for longer than 18 months. You can't file a short form prospectus. So we walked into something last year where we needed to come out to the market. We were actually going to come out to the market. We were trading, I think, at over a $20 million market cap at the stage. To raise the money to complete the expansion was something that we believed we could do in the market. But we came out, and Caracal is a small mining company with tremendous potential, listed in London, access. We should have been off the back of a very positive share price coming out and raising funds in the market. But because the work hadn't been done properly by the team that we had at that side, we couldn't come out and publish a prospectus and off the back of the prospectus raise any money. So we were stuck in a very tricky situation. What made it more complicated is that we had moved our financial year end from December to the end of June, and we were looking. It was March. The information that we'd been given was incorrect. We couldn't complete a prospectus with unaudited, consolidated financials. Our financial year end was June. We could only now kick off in order to get a prospectus out and possibly come to the market in the traditional way of raising funding. We had to wait until the end of June before we could commence an audit. And so now we were sitting. We had this tremendously exciting project. We had ongoing costs to cover, ongoing work programs to deliver on, etc. But we had a 20 million pound market cap. We commencing our audit at the end of June. We had a great team. We had strong people, strong CFO in Paul. We had Rian. We had Frank. We had everybody. So we had a look, and the facility that we got from Millend at the time, compared to the market cap, was a small facility. It was $1.5 million. It served a purpose. It provided us with some working capital, some funding that we needed to keep the company running, to do all the work that we needed to do to get us through to the end of when the audit was done. We were talking to we had an offer in from OSIM. We were looking to close the OSIM funding by September, October. It ended up being November. So the company was in a good place. The facility from Millend was pretty small at the time, and compared to the market cap, and we accessed the money from them it was definitely the right decision by the company at the time. It was the right decision by the directors at the time. We managed to get it on the basis. Normally, a facility like that the people would look to secure the operating asset. They didn't want to take security at the asset level. They took security from Gerard and I. So the asset continued to be unencumbered, which was very important, because if we had encumbered the asset, we wouldn't have been able to attract the OSIM funding. So the Millend facility was a well thought out facility. It ended very badly, not because of Millend, not because of Caracal, because OSIM pulled out of the funding. So that's why it ended badly. And we've stepped up. We've Kilima Pesa has generated funds and has paid back that facility. Gerard and I have paid back the facility through issuing of shares to them. So it's not something where the directors who put the facility in place haven't suffered or haven't stepped up and repaid. Kilima Pesa has funded and repaid. So yeah, I mean, I understand the question, but it's the Millend facility wasn't a bad thing. It was a necessity, because the people who had been it was a necessity at the time. At the time, it wasn't expensive. It turned out to be expensive because of OSIM pulling out of the funding, not because of something that the company did incorrectly. Everybody must also remember that Kilima Pesa is a small mine. It's not a big mine. It makes money. It does generate money. It's generated money to pay off things like Millend. It's generated money to pay lawyers who are working on the prospectus. It's generated money to pay costs that are associated with the funding that we're doing now on the royalty side. But it has to get to the point where it needs to, the money that it generates, reinvest into the project, or the project won't continue to be profitable going forward. And Caracal has got expenses. We've got an audit, we've got a prospectus, we've got a financing process that we're running. And that's why we've raised these small amounts of money, is so that we can keep those things running. And if we stop those, if we stop the audit, or we stop the prospectus, or we stop funding, under these royalty funding processes, Mark, I don't know if you know, but you pay their technical consultants. So when DRA come to site and do their independent technical report for the funder, Caracal, Kelly Mapesa have to pay, and they're not cheap. They've come to site, they've done the first draft, they did the independent technical report for the funder. They've then come to site again and had to do a review of the geology. We've done a new mining plan with them, and we pay all of these costs, and these are costs which, if we lump them all onto Kelly Mapesa's cash flow, the mine will suffer. So yes, Caracal has got funding needs going forward, and that's why we've raised these small amounts of money to keep those work programs running.
Okay, excellent, very comprehensive and direct answer. Thank you, Robbie. The next question I have is also relating to the 92,000 there, but I guess the answer is, the question is, how come subscribers of the 92 took them at 3 and didn't simply buy on the open market? But I guess the answer is it's funding that's needed direct to Caracal, isn't it? Not necessarily that they wanted to buy shares.
Yeah, I mean, most of the guys are big shareholders already. We offered it to them, they took it up, and yes, the funding went into the company to assist us with the work programs that we're busy with.
Indeed. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, the next question I have here. Oh no, actually, sorry, we've covered the timeline there, so that's fine. We can leave that one. Right, on Mill End, have Mill End sold the remaining shares? How close are we to having them out of the organisation, because they have had a negative impact on the share price and investor sentiment?
Yes. Simon spoke to the Mill End guys a couple of weeks ago, because we needed to get an update for the FCA as part of the prospectus, and yes, they've sold down all of their shareholding.
Okay, fantastic. Now, moving on, we're just talking here a question on Tanzania. How far are Caracal on in getting these to production license status with the Tanzanian government? How far into the joint venture negotiations are we, and how long will it take to get the plant to production after funds were released and realizing 50,000 ounces per annum?
So the mining license application is in. I need to follow up with the guys and get an update of exactly what the timing is now. I haven't followed up with them this week. The joint venture discussions are going well. In fact, the chairman of the company who we're doing the joint venture with flies into Dar es Salaam tomorrow, and we'll be with them next week. So the joint venture is moving quickly towards being finalized. It has been a little bit more complicated than what we wanted, and mainly because they insisted that we get a mining license in over the Kengeli Llewellyn deposit. They wanted the mining license issued before we would finalize the joint venture. So it has taken a bit longer than what we wanted, but it's still on the cards and it's still proceeding.
Okay. And a follow-up to that question is that someone has noticed that the Tanzanian government are taking stakes in some mines. Is it also probable with you?
Yes, it's law. So if you get a large-scale mining license in Tanzania, it's law. The Tanzanian government gets 16%. So yeah, it's I think in some cases they on special negotiations like with Barrick, etc., they've even got a bigger stake. So our joint venture, the Tanzanian government will be a shareholder in the mining license, and it'll have 16%.
Okay, thank you. Now, a question here on Wim Ruther. You stated that Wim Ruther would make Caracal world-class. Can you elaborate further on anticipated figures and capex involved?
Mark, Wim Ruther is an exceptionally exciting exploration project. The first few drill holes that we put into it were very, very exciting. We maintain the Magori Greenstone Belt where we're based has got the potential to host one, potentially a few, potentially multi-million ounce deposits, like similar across the border in Tanzania. In fact, I was chatting, I don't know if everyone has followed, but the government in Tanzania the government in Kenya has recently lifted the moratorium on the issuing of mining licenses and exploration licenses in the country. There was a moratorium where they blocked the issuing of mining licenses and exploration licenses for a number of years, and we've had quite a lot of attention coming onto Kenya and people approaching us and talking to us. And one of the pioneers of the gold mining industry in Tanzania, he was with a company called Pangea Exploration, and they were one of the pioneers of the Tanzanian gold mining industry. Has been speaking to us, and he's had a look at the greenstone belts in Kenya, and he said yes, there will be 1, 2, 3 potentially world-class gold projects, and when he talks world-class, he's plus 10 million ounces that will be discovered in Kenya. And he concurs, what is needed is systematic exploration, money to be spent on exploration. And so it was very interesting to talk to him and see a guy who's got all of that experience, has discovered these type of projects across the border in Tanzania, has recognized the potential in Kenya, but it requires the money to be spent, the work to be done. Where we are down on the Magori Greenstone Belt, it confirms our plan is Kilimapesa, build the Kilimapesa expansion, try and consolidate that Magori Greenstone Belt and explore it and try and find a big deposit. And at Vimrutha, we believe that we're onto something that could potentially be big and be world class, but we've got a lot of work to do. We hit the ground running last year, and we were very aggressively exploring the Kilimapesa Hill. We believed we had the expansion funding locked in via OSIM. We started the work regionally. Vimrutha was our second target, I think, that we drilled out. We got some very exciting results, but we haven't done any work on Vimrutha since probably August, September of last year, because the funding fell through and we didn't have the funding to do the work. So we will get onto it again soon. Drill rigs are going to create the turning of the drill rig, the turning of the drill bit is going to create tremendous value for Kilimapesa, Caracal, and all of us stakeholders and shareholders. But we've got to get the expansion funding in place, and then we've got to get back onto the ground, get those drill rigs turning again. The current plan is the rigs will go back onto Kilimapesa Hill first, and carry out the work that DRA and everyone wants us to do, so that we fully explore the hill. But I can't wait to get back onto the ground at Vimrutha and see if it is the world-class deposit that we think it is. It's going to require money and it's going to take time. So I can't put a time frame to it. I guess an exploration project with the potential of Vimrutha take you anywhere between 3 and 5 years to fully explore. But if it's a multi-million ounce deposit, it's a game changer for not only just for us, it's a game changer for Kenya.
Okay.
We're very excited about Vimrutha.
Yeah, certainly sounds like it, Robbie. I'm looking forward to hearing a bit more about that when you can share it. But if we just move back to Kilimapesa briefly here for the next question here, when are we going to reach the 24,000 ounces, as this figure has been mentioned for quite some time? It certainly has. I know me and you have discussed that a few times before. Is it down to the funder releasing money for new equipment?
It always has been, Mark. We've always had to lock in the bigger funding. We've always had to lock in this expansion funding to get to that. So yes, I think it's in the RNS today. So we've got to go through the process on the funding, and once we've locked in the funding, drawn down the funding, take us 6 months to build the expansion project, and that's how we get to the 24,000 ounces.
Okay, thank you. And when are you expecting upgrades to be completed once it's all sorted? The April presentation stated by the end of the year, which doesn't appear to be achievable at this point.
Yeah, the April presentation assumed that the expansion funding would be in place, late June, early July, and that was the original timeframe that we were working to with the royalty funder. Obviously, the revised mining plan has impacted that timeframe, it's first quarter of next year. We expect we will get the funding in from the royalty funder, and 6 months from when we draw that money down, the expansion will be built, and that's how we get to the 24,000 ounces.
Okay. Now, someone here has a question on the role of Simon Rennick. If you can provide any further details now, as is actively, well, details on what role Simon is actively playing, as it's been silent on his activities, and now he's pushing the company forward.
So Simon's playing a very active role in the company on a daily basis. He's been involved in getting a lot of the corporate governance stuff and everything resolved in London, the systems in place and all of that stuff. He's on all the prospectus calls, which are at the moment they daily. He's been involved in all of the stuff that we've been doing around the mining plan, etc. I mean, we driving all of that as the chairman. He's not driving all of that. No, he's playing a really big role in the company. Email came out from him this afternoon. Now that the mining plan is out, and we're very close to the end of this prospectus. We're on our 9th turn of the prospectus. We're down to, I think we down, well, the last response, the last turn, the response went in on Tuesday, so we should hear back from the FCA, if not tomorrow afternoon, Monday, and we should be down to one question if it's not approved. I'm hoping it's approved. It's a tedious process, so he's played a massive role in getting that done. Off the back of that, he's now going to drive our medium term and our longer term strategy. It's obviously we're going to have this short suspension. He wants to make sure that we have a strategy session sometime early next week, and we plan exactly what's going to happen. Yes, he's playing a big role. He's played a big role on the governance side, big role on the prospectus and all of that side, and now he's going to be playing a big role in driving the strategy side. Will he want to be out there more in the public? I'm not sure. We ask him that question. Maybe the next Telegram interview can be with him. But he's I don't know if that's what he wants to do. But he's playing a very big role. He's a huge support for me, a huge support for the other guys in the company. So yeah, a vital role for us.
Well, it would certainly be nice to have a chat with him at some point, even if it's just to get to know him a little bit. So maybe we can arrange that when that's appropriate. I just pick up a kind of question here, a follow-on. Sorry, I should have seen it earlier regarding Mill End. Does it mean all the remaining payments to them are also done, or is it dependent on the prospectus being out?
Yeah, I mean, Mill End and the terms of the settlement haven't changed to what was announced. They get issued real shares under the prospectus, and there is a cash payment that gets made to them as and when we do a raising in the future. So yeah, Mill End are still involved. I know that the guys in the market don't like Mill End and etc. But the Mill End transaction ended badly, not because of Mill End and not because of Caracal, because the OSIM funding didn't fall into place. And it's they lent the company money. The money was deployed into the company. It produced very valuable work for the company. So we just have to continue to work with Mill End. If they want to, they get issued with this next batch of shares. Try and prevent them from selling it down. Maybe we find a block buyer to buy it from them again, or something. But something that we'll manage with them and hopefully manage it better. Mill End don't want to be involved in Caracal. They just want to get their money back and move on.
Okay. And when can the market expect to see a new CFO and new non-exec directors? Is the plan still to get NEDs from the funders of the Kilimapesha expansion?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some very good candidates for CFO. We've got some potentially very good candidates for the non-executive directors as well to come on board, guys with great industry experience. Some candidates with lots of experience in Kenya, albeit in other industries. So we've got some exciting candidates. We waiting to finalize or the independent guys that we're looking at bringing in are looking. Some of them are looking and saying, okay, guys, as soon as the prospectus is done, we'll come on board, etc. So yes, we're talking to quite a few people, and we'll definitely be offering or it might be a requirement from the the funders to get a position on the board. Those discussions will progress now. Now the mining plan is out, and we can get back into those commercial discussions with the funders. So yeah, it's we need to bring on some skills onto the board. We definitely need a CFO going forward. We've got to scale up now. We've got to start scaling up to draw this money down, to manage the funding, to manage the expansion project, and scale and start scaling up in order to run the bigger operation. It's a we had scaled up potentially last year. Maybe we scaled up a bit too fast, because by the end of November we were fully scaled up. We had a big team on site ready to draw that money down, and then just so we've got to do it in probably a bit slower this time. But yes, we've got to bring in CFO, boost some skills onto the board, and also around the operation, bring in some key appointments around on the operational side.
Okay, thank you for that. I do see someone's made a point. I don't know if there's a question here, but it's regarding the tonnage that was down this quarter on Kilimapesa, but I'm pretty much sure we've covered that. And you say we're going to get a quarterly update out in the next few days, and really you're not going to hit the target until the funding's in place and you've got the new equipment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, yeah, that covers that one off. Okay, in Q2 results, you mentioned 20% recovery from the Heap Leach operation, and the latest study targets 50% recovery. Can you comment on Q3 recovery rates and what has been implemented to improve them?
So Heap Leach is recovered on a curve. So when you load a pad, and you've put fresh ore onto the pad, the recovery picks up over time the more you irrigate it. So I think our cycle times on the pad are 45 to 50 days. So I presume that number, I'd have to look into the numbers and look at the quarterly again. But that number must have been Q2. We must have loaded fresh ore onto the pad, and so we would have taken the old material off, put new ore onto the pad, irrigated, and maybe we'd only got to a 20% recovery by the time we had to put out the results. So I'd have a look at that and come back and comment on that. So I know running through some numbers today, and it was one of the questions that Simon asked the guys on site today, is the Heap Leach numbers for October. Why the Heap Leach numbers budgeted for November significantly more than October? And it was because during October we were removing ore and reloading the pads, and irrigating pads. So and now November the pads are irrigated, so they're fully loaded, and they've been irrigated for a longer period of time. So it was a bit of a boost. So Heap Leach recovery on a curve. The trick with it, Mark, and the trick with the not the trick with the expansion, a well-run full commercial style Heap Leach, you'll be loading fresh ore onto one pad and starting to irrigate it. The pad next to it would have been under irrigation for a month already. The next pad you'll be finishing off the irrigation. So you've got enough pad space that you'll be constantly producing so your production is always constant. I mean, it's a mining operation. You're always going to have fluctuations, but on a commercial size Heap Leach operation, you'd have enough pad space that you're going to always have constant production coming out. Off our little Heap Leach operation, off the pilot plant Heap Leach, we're a little bit restricted with space and tonnage, so it's load pads, offload pads, so you will have variances. But going into the expansion, that's why we build all of the space, and we've and we'll be producing constantly. So I guess that would be the reason for that.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have about 10 minutes-ish left. There's only, I think, about 5 questions I've got to get through here that were submitted previously. The next one I have here, will the MRE, that's the mineral resource estimate update, and additional drilling require the funding to be completed / signed and drawn down?
No, I mean we've already paid for phase one, and the phase one report is out. So we're kicking off on phase two now. We'll fund the drilling, the initial part of the drilling now internally. So no, I mean we're kicking off on phase two now. It's important to, I think it's very important to clarify. We don't need phase 2, 3, or 4 to lock in this expansion funding. We only needed to complete phase one. So the work that we've needed to do to lock in the funding is done. This rest of the work is value add. And it was work that we were going to do anyway. We know we haven't finished exploring Kilimapesa Hill. Kilimapesa Hill is open along strike east and west. It's open at depth, and it's actually we've actually, through this remodeling and this mining plan, it's actually open in the middle of the deposit. So the drilling that we're going to do is going to grow the Kilimapesa Hill resource. The numbers will go up, and it'll increase the confidence. So it was work we were going to do anyway. But we need to finish the exploration on it. We need to get Kilimapesa Hill over 1 million ounces, and we need to get Kilimapesa, that 1 million ounces, into indicate all of it into indicated and measured, so we can put a mine plan over it and have a 10-year mine life, confirmed, and at the same level of confidence that we've got on the 3-year mine life. So it's a big positive, and DRA, DRA are involved with the funder. DRA are going to be involved with us all the way through the execution of the expansion, and they're involved with us on the exploration and mining side now. So it's great. We've got a consulting world, very competent, very well known consulting group assisting us with all of this stuff. So it's a big positive.
Okay, so the initial phase there already internally funded here. I have another couple of questions here. Is when can we expect phases 2 and 3 to commence? And as an addition to that, when can we expect the draw down, to draw down the first amount of capital to fund the expansion plan?
Phase 2 will kick off now.
Okay.
And the funding will be first quarter of next year.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I have about 3 questions left. So this next one here is all-in sustaining costs of $1,055 according to the 3-year plan. Does this figure include payments back to potential expansion funders?
The expansion funding that we're going through, Mark, is a royalty. So it's not a debt facility. So it's a royalty facility basically works like a government royalty. So we'll pay X percentage back every quarter through the delivery of gold to the funder. So no, it's yes, it does include, because it's not an operating cost. So yes, that's the all-in sustaining cost. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now, in today's RNS, this may be a technical question here, but in today's RNS, the overall ounce for the next 3 years is over 49,000, which effectively stands at 16,000 per annum. How are we planning to get an extra 8,000 ounces per annum to get to the 24,000 ounces promised?
There's the recovery that was used in that model, in the work that DRA has done, is based on our current recoveries, which is sitting around 75% for the milling plant. That 75% is low for a simple greenstone milling CIL crushing circuit. All over West Africa, guys are achieving 90% plus. Across the border in Tanzania, companies like TRX, all of them are achieving 85% plus. So there's room for improvement, and with the additional tanks, our milling circuit being optimized, proper crushing circuit being installed, proper gold room, which is all part of the expansion, their recoveries through the milling plant will go up from 75 to over 85%. So there'll be an improvement and some additional ounces coming out of that. And then the additional ounces will come out of our heap leach capacity. It's Kilimapesa Hill is a large, low-grade deposit, and we yeah. So the 24,000 ounces is imprinted in all of our
Mhm.
in all in we will achieve it, and I believe we'll achieve more than it because of the size of the Kilimapesa ore body, and because heap leach expansions are easy. You just build more pad size, load more ore, and you produce more gold. So yeah, I mean, the fact that we've got an independent technical report now which confirms and really confirms in strong numbers and strong terms the potential of Kilimapesa Hill. But yeah, I mean, we're not going to limit it to that for the 3 years. We will get to that 24,000 ounces, and it will be as part of that plan.
It's certainly, yes, 24,000 ounces. Or when you hit that, I think you deserve throw a party or something, because that is something that I know, as you say, it's been imprinted on everyone's mind for a long time.
Yeah.
So I have a final question here, and I think I saw one pop up in the group there. So we have got about 4 minutes of your time. Thank you very much for your time this evening. So when the OSIM deal fell apart earlier this year, and given that you were employing around 650 people at that time, what did the company do to look after that workforce from a social responsibility perspective when presumably all the plans went off the table?
Yeah, I mean, it was announced. You know, we had to put the operation onto care and maintenance for a while we had to source some funding to keep things, you know, to keep the doors open, and to going out and look for another funder, etc. Because we'd scaled up expecting that money to come in, and it didn't arrive. And I mean, we're not an exploration company where we've got 10 people in camp and some highly qualified geologists who can walk out and go and find another job the next day. You know, we're a small mining company, but being a small mining company, you have the same responsibilities as a big mining company, and we operate with a serious social license in the area where we are. It's not a wealthy area. It's quite rural. So yeah, we've continued to we've had to scale back on the employment. We had to shut the underground operation, which was a large employer of people in the area. We've had to pay out people's retrenchment packages, reskill people, employ them in other areas of the mine, etc. You know? So we've continued to do it, Mark. We've continued. We've got excellent working relationships with all of the previous staff. We're hoping to, you know, through this expansion process, to bring a lot of the guys that we had to retrench back onto the mine. It's all you know. Somebody who's it's I guess it's you part of the reason that we, you know, in January we could have thrown our hands up in there and said, oh, it didn't work, and, you know, let's stop and refigure and take 3 months out and come back and then refinance everything, let's close everything down in Kenya for a while, etc. But you don't have that luxury. You know, big mining companies can put a mine on care and maintenance. They've got lots of money in the bank to fund retrenchment packages. They can take staff from one operation to another operation, etc. We're a small operation. You know, we've got one operation, and mining is not a big industry in Kenya. So we're in the public. You know, if Kilimapesa, we're in the newspapers all the time. So big social license, big responsibility, and we really had to step up and make sure that we looked after the people, kept everything going. People have all got school fees to pay and families to feed. So yeah, it wasn't easy.
No, I can imagine not easy, but it's nice to hear what measures you took there during that time. So just a final question, Robbie, if I can, that someone just put in on the group here. So this is when would you expect to sign the funding docs with the funder, and would you announce that before finalising all CPs, or will we only hear once all CPs are satisfied?
No, we have an obligation to announce it. So as soon as we've signed the binding documents, the final legal documents, we have to announce, and that will probably be about a month to 6 weeks before the CPs are all met. So we know what the CPs are going to be, and, you know, under the official reason that OSIM gave us was that they couldn't exercise security over the mining license in Kenya, and that's why that was the condition precedent that they said we couldn't fulfill. Under Kenyan mining law, you can't. It's to give you so you, Mark, if for instance you lent Caracal $10 million to build the expansion, and we couldn't pay you the money back, and you as Mark Fairburn had got security at the mining license level from the Kenyan government, and with all due respect, I don't think you've run a gold mine in Africa before, and the next thing you could rock up in the country and say, oh guys, I own that mine and I'm going to take it over. But you arrive, do you have the financial expertise? Do you have the technical expertise, etc., to take over that mining license? And if the Kenyan government had given an irrevocable irrevocable commitment to OSIM, that if we didn't pay them back the money, they would automatically get issued the mining license. And it doesn't make sense. So no, you can't. In most countries, you can't do that. But we know what the conditions precedent are. When we entered into the negotiations, the wound from the OSIM deal not going ahead was so raw with us that one of the first things that when I was doing due diligence on the potential funder, I said to them, guys, I need to know now, what are your conditions precedent? What security do you want? Because I'm not going to go down this path and be exposed again like we were with OSIM. So we know what the conditions precedent are going to be. We will be able to fulfill them. So, and I guess the drawdown should take place normally 4 to 6 weeks after we announce. But no, we will announce first. We have an obligation to announce it first.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Robbie. And I can only dream of having $10 million to invest in Caracal gold, but maybe one day. Hey, maybe one day. You never know. Following wins in the market, and maybe. But listen, thank you so much for your time this evening. That is an hour of your time this evening. Thank you, everyone. There's a lot of interest clearly still in Caracal there with all the questions that were submitted in advance. Thank you again to City Girl Claire for organising this. It is valuable for shareholders, and I hope, Robbie, you feel it's valuable too. Thank you very much for joining us, and yeah, let's catch up again soon. And the more regularly we do these things, the less questions probably will come in the next time we do a live one. But thank you very much for your time, Robbie, this evening, and everyone listening as well.
Mark, thank you very much. Thanks. It was an hour. I hope. If there's any follow-up questions, please just feel free, send them through, and I'll respond over email or whatever.
No problem. Thank you very much, Robbie.
Thanks,
Good night.
everyone.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.